Please stay away from electrified rails and proceed to an emergency station until assistance arrives.
About 3 years ago, Half-Life SFX videos started really popping up. People would take the sound effects from 1998's Half-Life and dub them over movies, TV shows, cartoons, and cat videos. Now, I know trying to explain a joke is how you ruin a joke, but I think Half-Life's SFX are too iconic not to talk about. Let's start by taking a look at this video by YouTuber Hellmord.
No! Oh, are you insane? Do you know who ate all the donuts?
So you'll notice that all the voice lines are dubbed over with Black Mesa scientist audio files. These files have a sample rate of 11 kilohertz and a bit depth of 8. Now what does that mean? Digital audio files are made up of thousands of tiny samples of audio played back sequentially. One sample is kind of like an individual frame of a movie. Sample rate then governs how many samples are played back per second, a lot like FPS. Half-Life plays back 11,000 samples per second, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually insufficient to render any frequencies above 5 kilohertz, which is only 1/4 of the human hearing range. The difference between an 11 kilohertz sample rate and a 44.1 kilohertz sample rate, which is the industry standard, is kind of like the difference between 15 FPS and 60 FPS.
Hey, Mr. Freeman, I had a bunch of messages for you. Hey, Mr. Freeman, I had a bunch of messages for you. Hey, Mr. Freeman, I had a bunch of messages for you. Hey, Mr. Freeman, I had a bunch of messages for you.
Now, onto bit depth. You've probably heard of 8-bit and 16-bit game consoles like the NES and SNES, and might associate the term with pixelated graphics. But in that context, bit depth actually refers to the amount of colors the console has access to. The higher the bit depth, the larger the color palette. Audio bit depth works in a very similar way, but instead of limiting the number of colors the console has access to, it limits the resolution of amplitude data per sample. It essentially makes each sample less detailed. I know that's kind of abstract, but I think the easiest way is to just hear the difference.
Absolutely not. Do you think we should appeal to the alien authorities? Have you been able to get the beverage machine to work yet?
All audio files in Half-Life are 11 kilohertz and 8-bit. This kind of audio quality wasn't uncommon at the time, but it is obsolete by modern standards. However, that obsolescence provides so much of the character of Half-Life's sound effects. The charm of low-fidelity audio is like the charm of VHS. There's a great quote that really sums up how I feel, from Brian Eno's book, A Year with Swollen Appendices. Whatever you now find weird, ugly, uncomfortable, or nasty about a new medium will surely become its signature. CD distortion, the jitteriness of digital video, the crap sound of 8-bit, all of these will be cherished and emulated as soon as they can be avoided. I got that quote from the top comment of a H-Bomber Guy video, so thanks Panman38. The retro timbre of the sound effects help them maintain their recognizability when they're slammed into meme videos. But there is more going on here than just lo-fi playback. There is also a strong artistic intention to develop a cold, technological, industrial world through sound design. Now, it's typical for sound design in games and film to mimic the real world. Almost all the sounds in Red Dead Redemption 2, Far Cry 3, or Disco Elysium aim to be as unobtrusive and believable as possible. Even more fantastical games like Skyrim or Elden Ring keep their sound design very grounded. Doors sound like doors, animals make realistic sounds, fire magic sounds like fire. Half-Life does something different. The medkit wasn't designed to be as realistic and believable as possible. It was designed to sound incredibly, incredibly cool. In this 2011 interview with the Gaming Library, Kelly Bailey, the sound designer and composer for Half-Life, supports this idea. Bailey says that his artistic purpose for the Half-Life sound design was to reinforce the dark and technically oppressive setting, rather than being subtle and unobtrusive. Half-Life sound effects are intentionally intrusive. Often they don't mimic any real-world sounds, and are instead predictive of future sound worlds full of actuating machinery, digitized synth voices, and alien screeches. Half-Life sound design contributes to its world building, and it's given the space to do so, partly because player character Gordon Freeman is a silent protagonist, and partly because of the infrequent use of music. The sound effects are given the scope to become the focal point of your listening attention. Let's look at 3 examples. As Gordon Freeman rides the Black Mesa transit system to another day at work in Sector C, he passes through these security doors. Inorganic machine sounds perfectly situate the player in Black Mesa. This moment is accompanied beautifully by the track Vague Voices from the OST, while the sound effects take center stage. They combine to make your journey into Black Mesa feel foreboding. After the resonance cascade causes an alien invasion, Freeman fights his way to the surface in search of a rocket that he hopes will stop the aliens. Once Freeman initiates the launch sequence, sirens blare, the blast doors close, and the rocket fires. The gravity of the moment is conveyed to the player through overpowering sound design. No score is used to make the moment more dramatic. The track Drums and Riffs kicks in after the launch, highlighting the potency of the moment. Sadly, the rocket fails to stop the invasion, and Freeman has to travel to Zen himself to try and stop the nihilists. The instant the player arrives in Zen, it's clear that the soundscape is radically different from any point prior in the game. We're not in Black Mesa anymore. The grinding and hissing industrial sounds of Black Mesa are replaced by a hollow alien echo. The disquieting stillness of it all creates a profoundly unsettling mood which lets the player know that Zen is unlike anything they've experienced before. These are just a few of my favorite sound moments from Half-Life, and there are many, many more. As you traverse Black Mesa and Zen for hours alone, your one constant companion are the sounds, aside from your crowbar. Sound design contributes significantly to telling Half-Life's story, and by doing so becomes something greater than the sum of its parts. The world-building value of these SFX aren't lost when they're used in memes, which is exactly why they work. It feels like The Simpsons are in Half-Life, just through the use of sound.
Time to choose.
I wanted to make this video because I felt like the Half-Life SFX memes indicate that there is something really special and memorable about the Half-Life sounds. It isn't common for a game's sound design to still be iconic nearly 25 years post-release. So what did we figure out about why this is the case? Half-Life's low sample rate and low bit rate imparts a degraded quality onto the audio that is both highly recognizable and suits the artistic intention of the game. If you're making a game or working with sound, you could consider creatively manipulating the audio resolution through sample rate or bit depth reduction. It's a sound that I think resonates with people. Half-Life's clear artistic intention informed the sound design and allowed it to contribute to building Zen and Black Mesa into memorable, visceral experiences. Experimental, bold sound design that's allowed to draw attention to itself is less common than I think it should be. And finally, why are Half-Life sound effects so funny? Because of the immense success of the project and the unique prominence of the sound design, Kelly Bailey's works have been implanted deep into the memory banks of millions of gamers. The memes leverage this to collide two worlds that are either ridiculous opposites or oddly similar. If the sound design wasn't so memorable, they would never work. Also, have you heard the scientist voice? I mean, that guy is crazy.